Matthew chapter 20. I'm going to start in verse 29 today. That's Matthew chapter 20. We're going to start in verse 29. All right. Open your Bibles and let's get to it. As they were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed him. That's Jesus. There were two blind men, sitting by the road. When they heard that Jesus was passing by, they cried out, "Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David." The crowd demanded that they keep quiet, but they cried out all the more, "Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David." Jesus stopped, and he called them and said, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord," they said, "open our eyes." Somebody say, "Open our eyes." Moved with compassion, Jesus touched their eyes. Immediately they could see, and they followed him. This is God's word. You know, I was taking my son to jiu-jitsu class. We had an obligatory, I feel like 3 months of jiu-jitsu that we tried out for at one point in time. Don't judge me, Chris Shaw. And we really liked it, actually. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Teaneck does a really good job. It's a really nice facility. And I remember, sitting there, and I would always bring a little bit of work or whatever, and a couple of other dads were there bringing their children to the same course. And bless you. And I remember we would get in conversations, and of course, in New Jersey, one of the first things people always want to ask you, what do you do for work? For me, I'm not shy about what I am, right? I come from the corporate world, but I am a pastor, and I'm proud to be one. But okay, I appreciate that. I am completely unashamed to be a pastor. And even though pastor is one of the least respected professions in the country, did you know that? So I'm unashamed to be a pastor, and I proudly say that. But what comes with that often is I'll be in the most random places, and that comes out, and then it's just, I'm suddenly in the middle. I'm now a professor, and I'm in a theology course that I'm teaching, full of whatever this person or these people want to know about God. And I sometimes enjoy those moments, but, Anyway, so I was talking to a dad, and found out I was a pastor, and he immediately goes in and what do you think about this? And, what do you think about, dinosaurs and all these different things? And, hilarious. And we get to this point in the conversation. We're having a really good conversation, honestly. I enjoyed this conversation. And I remember he got to the point where he was like, my gripe with Christianity, and he's not a Christian, it's always been, I could just never get behind the idea that, I'm a terrible person in need of, help or grace. That just doesn't, I'm a pretty good guy. And it's difficult for me to grapple with the idea that, I am in just desperate need, Lord, save me. I don't need that much saving. We do pretty well financially. I have a great job. I get promoted every couple years at least, and I have a pretty good marriage, and my family loves me, and I give back to the community. I do a food pantry once a month, and I'm a pretty good guy. The thing about what Matthew is showing us here, and the reason why he wrote the story the way he did, you can even tell by how it's different from the same story being written in Mark 10, is what he's trying to get at is life before it is a matter of good versus bad, it's a matter of light versus dark. It's not just a matter of, are you a really good guy? You know what I mean? Are you doing the right things or what your culture would interpret as the right things or the good thing? Are you a good guy? No, Matthew doesn't tell us anything about these people. He doesn't even tell us their name, even like Mark did. He just says, they come to Jesus and they just say, "Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David," because they realize life, especially blind, is not a matter of good versus bad. It's a matter of light versus dark. I get it. There might be a lot of really good guys in here. You know what I mean? You're walking in the door, good guy alert. There goes a really good guy. I get it. You're a really nice guy. But can you restore sight in yourself? Can you produce light? It's not a matter of are you good? It's a matter of can you produce light? Can you produce sight? And if the answer is no, then maybe I would suggest to you that there is something that you do need. Because I think we walk through life and we think we're just okay in and of ourselves in these things that we do, just being pretty good people. And I think it's because we look at the spiritual side of our lives, which is largely unignorable. And we start to look at it kind of like this Marvel movie where there's just, like there's good and there's evil. And then it's like, as long as I'm enough on the good side, you know what I mean? Like I root for Batman, you know what I mean? That's my guy, And as long as I'm enough on the good side, then I'm straight. But you see, what's happening here is Matthew is trying to explain that life and life in relationship with God, and even beyond that, where we're picking up, because this is part 2 of a sermon that I actually started last week, life in service to God is first a matter of mercy. Service starts with mercy. It doesn't start in just good versus bad. It starts with observing the light that has come to you. Service starts from an overflow of knowing that Jesus Christ himself, God, came to the world. God himself came to the world, lived a perfect life, but died on a cross to defeat death and sin for you, and then he rose from the dead. It starts with the acknowledgement that I need the mercy of a God who died for me, and that moves me to say, well, then the least I could do is live for him. The least I could do. If there is a God in heaven who died for me, the least I could do is live for him. Better yet, the least I could do if Jesus Christ came to serve me, as it says in verse 28, if we back up, it says, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. If he came to serve me, the least I could do is serve him. Because the fact is, we all have this condition of blindness, and we need the light of the world to come and open our eyes. We all have some version of a condition of blindness, and we cannot produce sight for ourselves. We'll get to the aspect later of like, are you good or are you bad? Because how do you even define what is good? On what basis do you determine something's good? Let me get philosophical on you for a second. So, like actually this is happening right now in Hackensack. If I open a coffee shop on Main Street, and Lord knows we have enough of those in Hackensack, if you've been on Main Street, you know, I can't even get to the mall. I'm like, I haven't even been to that one yet. Anyway, we have a lot of great coffee shops, I should say, on Main Street. So say I open a coffee shop and it's doing well, and then all of a sudden someone else opens a better coffee shop right across the street from me, and now it kills my business. That's not good, but who's wrong? Is it wrong for that person to, because if I'm the first business owner that opened the first coffee shop, I'm going to not like that person just opened that coffee shop across the street. They're taking my business. But if I'm the other coffee shop owner, this is my third location, and like, sorry, buddy, but like, this is what we do. I make coffee too, and I make it better than you. So is that my fault? Am I bad for that? Who's wrong in the situation? You don't know, right? Like, it can be difficult to know, well, what is good and what is bad? Who is right and who is wrong? But here's the thing about when you don't have a solid, a sacred foundation in particular, is that you're kind of left up to whatever the common good, whatever people think today is good, is good. And whatever they think is bad tomorrow is determined bad. But the thing about people is that people change. People change their opinions all the time. One day they like you and one day they don't. One day they think your videos are funny, one day they're not. And so it's like, how can you go just based off of what the common people would say is good or bad or right or wrong. And so that's why we can get to later to talk about how the Bible bases what is good. But before we get there, at first you must understand it is a spiritual matter. It is a matter of light versus dark. Not just are you good or are you bad, but is light in you or is darkness in you? Is light for you or is darkness for you? What have you given yourself to? And I think before you begin to serve God, before you begin to grow in your relationship with God, you first must understand this. Anything you do in your journey in faith is first an outpouring. It is an overflow of understanding this particular point. And you see in verse 31 that they don't get this, right? Because in verse 31, you see our natural inclination to the idea of service shown really well. Verse 31, it says, the crowd demanded that they keep quiet, right? They're screaming, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. The crowd demanded that they keep quiet, but they cried out all the more, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. You see, we think of the idea of service, and we go, just like the crowd went. The crowd's walking with Jesus, and here come these dudes blind, like, yo, please help us, please help us. And they're like, yo, be quiet. He did not come here. The Lord of the galaxies did not come here to deal with your little, thing you got going on, bro. We trying to get somewhere. Please be quiet. And that is our natural inclination of what it looks like to serve. But Jesus said he came to serve, not to be served. And so he stops. And he goes, no. This is actually what I did come here for. I came here to engage this. You think we're heading somewhere else. You think we're heading to bigger and greater and grander pastures or whatever, some big moment. Really, this is the big moment. The serving the blind. This is the thing that I have come to do. And so then when Jesus says in verse 28, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many, this brings us to the second observation about service in Matthew chapter 20 for today. Service can never be beneath you. It can only ever be above you. I knew you weren't going to like that one. You don't got to help me preach it. If the God of the galaxies came to serve and not be served, then service can never actually be beneath you. We think service is beneath us. Look at those people pushing those carts over there. I'm not going to do all that. Surely somebody else can clean that thing. Surely somebody else can wipe up the water as it falls out of the baptismal pool. Surely, I'm above that. If God serves, service can never be beneath you. It can only ever be above you. But I know that we don't look at it that way in our culture. And I can tell based off of just how we treat our veterans, for instance. People who go to the service come back and have higher unemployment rates than just regular people who didn't go to serve and protect our country and put their life on the line. We are one of the only countries that does that. That is not right. That's not right. And I'm not running for governor or anything, but I think if you go to the service, you should have an immediate, automatic contract or job when you come back. And that does not make sense. Other countries do that. We should be able to do that very simply and very easily. But we don't. And I think it's because when we hear the word service, we tend to think person who carries the water instead of person who carries the weight of the kingdom of God. And what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to reframe your mind around this idea of what it means to be a servant and what it means to serve people, what it means to serve God. It means you carry the weight of the kingdom of God. You're not a water carrier when you serve. You are taking on a great title. Servant can never be beneath you. It can only ever be above you. And that is why Jesus Christ himself said he came to serve, not to be served. Servant of the Lord. And what he's playing on here was a legitimate title in this time. It was a title that was given to kings, for instance. Like you look at 2 Kings 19:34. Cool, I'm going to read off here because I'm not sure which ones I gave to you. I will defend this city and rescue it for my sake and for the sake of my servant David. Somebody say servant. My servant David. David is the most notable king of all of the kings of Israel. Of all of the kings over the nation of the people of God, David is the most notable one, and he is called a servant. Servant of the Lord is a kingly title. Servant of the Lord is also a prophetic title. 1 Kings 14:18. It says he was buried and all Israel mourned for him according to the word of the Lord he had spoken through his servant, the prophet Ahijah. And another one as well talks about Jonah, one of the most notable prophets. 2 Kings 14:25. He restored Israel's border from Lebahemoth as far as the sea of the Arabah, according to the word of the Lord. The God of Israel had spoken through his servant, the prophet Jonah, the son of Amittai from Gath-Hepher. Servant Jonah. One of the most notable people who don't even read the Bible know the story of Jonah. You know what I mean? Swallowed by the whale. It's like one of the most things people talk about in the Bible. There's all sorts of movies and things about it. One of the most notable prophets. And a prophet is somebody who would have been a mouthpiece speaking for God to the nations. Everybody would have followed this person for something, for words. Servant. Not only is it a kingly title, it is a prophetic title. It is a spiritually powerful title. On top of that, Psalm 136, verse 22, the entire nation of Israel, an inheritance to Israel, his servant. He calls the entire nation of Israel his servant. So he ties together, the psalmist ties together what it means to belong to God, to be a child of God at all. It means to be a servant. You can't separate the two. That has salvific implications. And not only that, Jesus himself. Isaiah 52, verse 13. See, my servant will be successful. He will be raised and lifted up, resurrected from the dead and ascended and greatly exalted. This was written about 700 years before Jesus ever walked the earth, and it's talking about Jesus. It was always the case that Jesus didn't just decide on his own, like, I'm going to go rogue, and like, I know I'm supposed to be or whatever, but like, I'm going to serve. No, he did it because it was always a part of the plan that Jesus, in his nature, was sent to serve. That is who he is as God. The Messiah, sent to serve. It is a kingly title. It is a prophetic title. It is a salvific title. It matters about your relationship with God, and it is even a title that God himself gives himself. But you tell me, service is beneath you. I don't know where you got that from. It's the reason why James, Peter, John, Paul, Timothy in the New Testament, they address themselves as servants. Can I keep driving this point home for you? I need to reframe your understanding of what it means to serve. Because in North Jersey, in the Northeast, we just don't see it this way. We don't. We think service, we think blue collar, we think it's like, oh, I don't even know how to change my own oil. Why would I know how to do that? Pet Boys seems to do a pretty good job. I don't know how to do that. I'm not going to get up on my roof and blow leaves out the gutter. I live in an apartment, so I don't have to shovel my own snow. The super does these things. You understand? It's beneath. I don't want to do that. Got a bad back. How can I serve? My back is bad. It is an honor to be a servant of the Lord. The thing about this too, other cultures get this. Other cultures just understand this. Not only just other cultures, literally just geographically in the United States. But I mean, even other, this is risky to say, but even other like people of faith get this better than we do sometimes. Like I am friends with some Jewish people, and like, can I tell you, at some synagogues, they will argue you down to give the tithe that gets used for the building project to make the door look more accessible for the community. They will argue you down who gets to come and help serve in the holy ceremony. Like, they will literally fight for it. But then in church, and I've seen it all across the nation, I'm not just talking about New Jersey on this point, there are leaders over different things, and I talk to them across the country. Again, this definitely happens at Eden too, but it happens across the country. And there are leaders, and they're just like meeting for hours and hours to figure out, like, how do we help people see that service is important? And they're trying, and they're sweating, and they're praying, and they're pleading to God that his servants would be summoned to the call of the mission of God, and they're pleading for it on your behalf. And I just wish you would want it for you as half as bad as they do. I just wish, I'm just trying to help you see the value that service is not beneath you. It is a great title. It is a thing that God has called you to because it's good for you, because it does something, because it attaches you to a mission that is far beyond you. And I don't know about you, but I feel like most of the people who are in my life want to be attached to things that are bigger than just themselves. Those are people I run with, at least. To want to be attached to something that is bigger than just them. To be able to see the ways of service as something much bigger and much grander. To see that when you're a stay-at-home parent, like you just... We're going to do a series on faith and work soon, after Easter, actually, starting the week after Easter, and I'm so excited for that. It's actually my ministry niche, but I think about this all the time about, like, what work actually is. And a lot of times we look at, like, a stay-at-home parent, and people get confused as to whether or not that person is working. And I'm like, yes, definitely. And I'll define that for you to make that very clear for you if you still disagree with me. But, like, when you think about that, it's like, that is the work. You look at piles of laundry, God sees legacy. Because one day somebody's going to tell the story of your family, and every honorable moment, every moment that they can celebrate is going to be a moment that was enabled by service. Was enabled by that laundry, because last time I checked, nobody ever received an award without clothes on. Was literally enabled by the laundry. And we need to start seeing it that way. That when you think of this idea of service, it is a grand thing that is happening. It is a grand thing God has called us to.